I love it.
Hello, 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 amigas, and welcome to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. As you know, I already did my little intro, and I'm gonna tell you this much about her. She's not only a badass, but guess what? She's the postmodern oracle. I'm like, ooh, that's huge. And I'm so excited for this conversation with Ilona. I had a reading recently and I just was like blown away by her knowledge and her expertise in this realm that never did I ever think that this was even a possibility or even part of my vernacular. And I'm so excited to have her here so that she can talk to us all about all that beauty out there, the magical, the astrology, the visions, all that amazing stuff. So welcome, 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 Ilona to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my God. Oh my God. These ladies, sometimes we have some amigos too, but these amigas have no idea, have no idea what they're going to get themselves into right now. So, Ilona, just so that we can see how, obviously before you were an astrologer, you were a baby, and where'd you grow up? Let us know. Give us perspective on your childhood, and then we're going to go focus into your astrology.
Oh my gosh, I love this question because I was born in Long Island. I lived in Queens until I was 8, and then we moved to Jersey. So I'm a tri-state area girl.
Mm.
Even though I don't live there anymore, I'm tri-state area through and through. In fact, I have a ring on that's New Jersey. Like I'm like a Jersey girl through and through.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I grew up, I'm a elder millennial, so growing up in times where things were still diverse in certain places, and then growing up in places where there wasn't diversity after coming from diverse places. And my parents were from Latin America. So my father was from Colombia, my mom's from Ecuador. We were first gen. They met at a party in Long Island and they stayed together here. And I always joke because she came from an aristocratic family. He came from a poor farmer family. I'm like, only in New York would those two have met, married, and created a middle class family, which in America would be, it's the Latin American dream, right?
Right, right, right. Oh my God. In a party. I met my husband at a club, but it was kind of weird. I mean, this is like the first introduction, but then, all kinds of stuff happened. Whatever. Anyways, but it's interesting when you start getting yourself out there, you start meeting people. And
Yes.
this pandemic really did a number for all the people that are single, because I mean, come on, like this is where we get to experience life and get to mingle and get to be with one another. But how amazing. Okay, so they met there. So then what happened? Like they got married and then had you, or how are you one of
Yeah.
many kids, or
That's a great question. So, I'm a rainbow baby. My mom had a miscarriage right before me. So I always say, like, thank you to the soul before me for giving me the chance to come in. And I'm the oldest of 3 that were born. So I have a younger brother and a younger sister. And it's interesting because growing up, my father was, the typical work hard, work long hours, very dedicated, like working dad, traditional Latin dad. And my mom, and he was Catholic because, hashtag Colombia, Latin America, Catholic. And my mom, her family was a little more unconventional because her parents were divorced when they were really young, which was unconventional in Ecuador. She had a lot of different experiences that put her in a place where she had to like create her own identity. So when she came here, she actually wanted to work, but my father was like, no, I'm going to take care of the money. You take care of the kids. Let's do this the way we're taught. But what was unconventional about the way she raised us was she literally believed in magic. So I always joke that I was raised with magical realism, which is a Colombian genre of literature. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, right? Where like, yes, like my dad worked hard and we had to work for what we had, but my mom was always like, we're going to clear out the energy. I remember being 4 years old, and if something felt off, she's like, voy a pasar incienso, she's going to clear the energy with some incense, or she's going to light a candle in hopes that something's going to happen. And by the time I was 7 years old or 6 years old, I remember my mom paid to meet Walter Mercado. So I have a picture of my mom and
ah,
Walter in my vision board.
yes.
And I feel like even though I didn't really get to really teach or learn with him, like I feel like he was one of my teachers because I grew up listening
Yeah.
to Walter. I grew
Yeah.
up learning about other spiritual traditions. I grew up learning about the world
Yes.
view of
Yes.
what's possible in when it comes to love. Because like Walter's message was mucho amor. Like
Mucho
at the
amor.
end of the day, he used astrology, but his message was love.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so he used these magical things. So I grew up believing that these magical things were a pathway to love, not these terrible things of demons that are going to be bad for you.
Right. Oh my God, I love that. It's interesting that you bring Walter Mercado because I always used to say mucho, mucho, mucho amor.
Mhm.
And it's such a staple in our community, right? I mean, I know he had a show. I mean, I was so young and like listening to him, I thought, what is all that? Like, is that possible? But of course, we're very like we're spiritual, but then at the same time, very traditional. Like, that's not
Mhm.
the way to go. We need to go through these careers, this pathway as being first generation Latin American,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But here's the thing, you didn't go through a traditional pathway, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did and I didn't. Like I always did my own thing. It's funny that you say that because I remember it's funny because by the time I was 8, like we were in the suburbs of New Jersey and there weren't a lot of Latinos. Like I remember I would watch like all the Spanish telenovelas. Like I would make my dad take me to Queens to buy all the new cassette tapes from like the artists that
Yeah.
like you could never buy at like, the Virgin Megastore or like whatever. But I remember watching the VH1 behind the scenes Gloria Estefan thing, and she was like, I got my college degree and I gave it to my mom and my dad. And I'm like, I did my part. Now I'm going to go sing. And I remember thinking, okay, like I can be a good student. I could do my thing. I'm going to make them happy. But like the moment that it's my turn, I'm going to be like, listen, I did my part and then I want to do my own thing. So I kind of always had this like programming of like, I can do both. Like I
Yes.
could be the good student and I can have my own direction.
Yes, absolutely. I have that similar path that, I'm a lawyer. And now, I mean, obviously I've been doing the lawyer thing for a long time and I'm like, in my heart it just doesn't resonate. And as you know, after my reading, you're like, "Oh, well, of course it doesn't." Oh, amigas, you got to get a reading with her. So I digress. But okay, so now you took the traditional and then you started something new in
Right.
this magical space. So walk us through that because you don't just like, oh, one day to another. Like, it's a
No.
process, right? So tell us,
Oh,
what
yeah.
was your process?
So so I never knew what I was gonna do. Like, I used to joke that the one thing I knew I was gonna be famous or friends with famous people. I just, like, loved people of influence, and not because of a feeling that they were more important, but I felt like, "Okay, we have important messages. It's the people who have large audience that are gonna help us get our messages across." And so, I always thought of fame as, like, an opportunity to change the messaging. And so but when it came to college, like, I had to go to college. Actually, so funny story, I wanted to sing. So I sang in high school. I actually got to this competition in New Jersey. I auditioned for a famous person's um, manager, and the whole time they're like, "Oh, it is muy gordita, it is muy gordita." The whole time it was like all about my weight, and I had a moment. I'm like, "This does not feel comfortable." And that day and it was in my senior year, and I remember telling my parents, "Okay, I'm going to college," because I was like, maybe I'll try out the famous route. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a degree because if they're going to judge me on my appearance, I don't have time for that.
Right.
And I didn't know what to study, but all I knew I was really good at languages. And so I remember marking off only foreign languages as like options that I wanted to take my first year. My first semester was like Spanish, Italian, elementary Portuguese. And so I graduated with a double major in Italian and Spanish, minor in Portuguese. I'd taken French and German as electives. And everyone's like, what are you going to do with languages? And the only thing I said was one day someone's going to pay me to fly around the world for them. And for 15 years, I was a college recruiter. It started off with domestic recruiting, doing diversity recruiting. So I needed to use my Spanish primarily. And eventually, like right in the middle of my career, international college admissions like became really popular. And they're like, who speaks languages? And by the time I'm 30 something, I'm the director of international undergraduate admission for an engineering school. So it was really great. I got to travel the world. I got to do a lot. But right before that specific role, I had experienced workplace abuse. Like it was bad. It was really, really bad. And at that point, I had disconnected from all the spiritual practices that my mom had raised me with clearing your energies, connecting to something bigger. Like my mom had vision boards in the 80s. Like everything that was in the book The Secret, my mom did in the 70s and the 80s. Like she was like ahead of the game. In fact, when the book came out, she's like, Mija, someone wrote a book. Everything I told you is in this book. And I'm like, wait a minute. So when this workplace abuse happened, it was a big breakdown. I was in isolation because my parents had moved to Florida, and a lot of like I was just by myself. And I got the chance to reconnect. And I had a moment, I'm like, this feels so much better. And how do we do more of this so that people don't feel powerless in abusive situations? And so in my next job, I had this like whatever financial leftovers I had, I started investing in taking courses and going to workshops. I literally dedicated myself to exploring my passions with my leftover money. And I know that my father would be like, Mija, no gasten eso, don't waste your money there. And I'm like, listen, I know that you don't get it, but there's something for me here. And I trusted my gut and my intuition in the direction to say, if I stay this path, I'm going to get to where I want to be.
Right.
And so I didn't necessarily jump ship the job immediately, right? There was probably like a 10-year difference between starting the realization and then actually being like, we're done. This chapter has ended.
Yeah, because sometimes you can't just burn the boats immediately.
Right. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can.
Sometimes you can. Yeah.
Sometimes that's the thing that you need to get you to the other side.
Right. Yeah.
But
True.
for me, I was like very conservative father. He's like, Mija, you need to have savings. Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, when you have, and I'm sure that a lot of the amigas listening are going to be like, yeah, those are my parents. They don't want me to take a risk. They came here for this. They expect this out of me. And I think there was a lot of that. Like, I think I would have switched earlier if I didn't have that, like, oh, what will my dad say? Right. What is he going to say? Because my mom would be like, Mija, lo que usted quiere hacer, hágalo. Right.
Yeah.
But my dad was like, but you need to have savings. You need to have money. And I remember asking for signs. So I started meditating. I got a health coach certificate, and I had done Deepak Chopra and Oprah's 21-day meditation challenge. And I remember I was on a 6-week tour of Latin America for educational recruitment. And on the flight home, it was Chile, Bogota, Bogota, Miami, Miami, New York. I was like, it's going to be a long day. It was a long night the day before, whatever. And I'm sitting on the plane, and I sit down and I'm like, I'm sitting next to Deepak Chopra. I've been asking for signs from the universe, and all of a sudden I'm sitting next to Deepak Chopra on a plane. Yeah, literally, I'm sitting next to him and I'm like, do I talk to him? Do I not? Had a great conversation with Deepak Chopra after asking the universe for signs if I'm on the right path, because I was at the moment where it's like, I can either go really big in that career, or I can really be like, I'm going to slow the brakes down and really figure out how to make it over here.
Yeah.
And the universe is like, we're going to put you on a plane next to Deepak while you're reading the 4 Agreements by Domingo Ruiz. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
So I took it as a sign that the universe is like, hey, don't not put your energy there.
Yes.
And I did take one more educational job after that, but even through that period, I pursued a master's in wellness coaching, but with a concentration at the university, was a concentration in integrative wellness practices, which is what I say a fancy name for mindfulness, because many of the semesters I had to meditate for 15 weeks. I had to learn about like mindfulness. I learned about Buddhism. I learned about all the ways that the mind impacts our nervous system and our thoughts, right? Like every single thought that you have really actually physically impacts your body and your brain and your reality and all the science behind that.
Yes. Oh my God.
So
Tell me more.
So the actual pivot is I start my first semester of that. I'm meditating for 15 weeks while traveling the world and having a job. And I had a tradition when my parents moved to Florida. Every Christmas was with my parents. Like all my friends were like, they knew, don't ask Ilona what she's doing for Christmas. I would fly religiously to spend, for me, Christmas was family.
Yeah.
And I had flown down. It was the Christmas of 2016, and my dad was sick. And he had been going to the doctors for months, and he wasn't feeling well. And part of me is like, this doesn't feel right. And so by January 1st of 2017, we get a call that he had cancer, and he died the next day. So he had all these goals. Like he was like, once I feel better, once the doctors come back from vacation, once this happened. And I had a moment of like, oh, like we don't know when our last tomorrow is.
Right.
And
Right.
like a lot, as he's passing away, because we watched it was a little traumatic. We watched him pass away. It was unexpected. The staff was not prepared. And so we watched him like kind of like try to control things even as he's passing. And it was one of those things where it's like, okay, if I left tomorrow, am I living the life that I want to live? And so it took me a few months to like sit with that and figure it out. And then one day, so my mom and my dad were very close. Like people always called it the honeymooners, even though they had been married almost 40 years. They acted like they were just married. So
Mm.
hashtag no pressure to find a partner in this lifetime for me. But my parents were very close. And so my mom was very devastated and I was single and, I chose to step up and help her. And she had a moment where she's like, well, if you want, you can quit your job. You can move in with me and we can figure things out while you finish your master's program. And so here I am in Florida, doing this pivot. And so I trusted once again, like, you know
Mhm.
what? It is not easy to be a late 30 something, early 40 something living with your mom, but sometimes you need to take those opportunities for the pivot, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
pivot, sometimes that is exactly what you need to be able to afford and step into the pivot. And
Right.
so I made that choice and I took advantage of going to grad school full time, finishing that master's, like doing some more leadership programs, training more. And that's where we are now.
Wow. Okay. So what a beautiful, beautiful way of pivoting. I mean, it's like really acknowledging, and thank you for sharing with us. It's such a, our parents are. I mean, at least for those of us who have our parents, it's so important to appreciate them while they're here. Because, as you said, we don't know if our tomorrow is even guaranteed.
Nope,
We
we
don't.
don't.
We don't. So now that we know that you don't know that your tomorrow is guaranteed, now you got into this process of becoming the postmodern oracle. So tell us, walk us through that, because I think that is like the juiciness that we want to get into.
Okay, so Postmodern Oracle, I'm a linguist, as you know. And when I was thinking, like, you don't have to have a title, but I was having fun with titles. And I once did this series on Instagram where I broke down the etymology of words for 30 days. And the last word was oracle. And I found out that the word oracle is oraculum, which comes from Latin. And it basically is like this idea of holding your prayer on high, or a high priest or high priestess holding your prayer on high.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, like that's kind of what I do with my coaching clients. Like, you want this? I'm going to hold all the space that you need for this wish to come true. Like, I am the container, I'm the safety net for this wish to be placed as high as you can, because sometimes you're not going to believe in it, but I'm going to believe in it. And I'm not going to let you not believe in this prayer.
Right.
And for me, like as I dug into the idea, I heard postmodern once, and I kind of like the way I understood it was like referential. Like people want to be very purist about certain things, but postmodernism is like, where are you at? What is your framework? What is your understanding? And let's work from there. So, like for some people, spirituality, prayers, coaching, they want to be like very held to a certain lens point, but really in coaching is like, what is your perspective? What is your prayer? What is your goal? Okay, so now that I understand your perspective and now that I understand where you want to go, I'm going to help you from there, not from my background, not from my point of view, not from my training, but from understanding yours and helping you move forward towards that experience.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. And so, did the human design come about when you were discovering this postmodern oracle?
It actually like probably right around the time, because I was already doing astrology. So I was training during the pandemic. I was learning about it. Like I was formally learning about astrology because I had known about astrology. I was already doing people's charts before then, but it was like, let me get a certificate to back it up so that people aren't thinking that I'm making this up. And because people
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
By
yeah.
the way, I have a lot of Sagittarius and said and ninth house placements, which is higher education and higher learning and more language. So I'm like, learning and language is my jam. But when I was learning astrology or more formally and kind of going into this, people were telling me about human design. And I was like, but I do astrology. And it's funny because you'll hear people go, oh, I don't do astrology more because I do human design. And I'm like, wait, you
Yeah.
can't do one with, well, you could do astrology without human design, but you can't do human design without astrology.
Okay, so let's talk about the differences.
Yes.
'Cause for those amigas out there that these are the first words you've ever heard in your life, human design. So what is that? Human design and astrology. I think it's most commonly like astrology. We all know about that, right? But
Right.
human design I think it's a different concept, or at
Yes.
least, or maybe it is. I don't know. Please
It is.
tell
It
us what it
actually is a
is.
whole different, in my opinion, it's they're distinct methodologies and one works off the other. So for me, I always say that astrology is the psychology of our ancestors. For me, when I learned my chart, I understood myself. It's like the board game of life that you were given to play in this lifetime. It's the planets and the houses that everything's laid on and the outfits that the planets are wearing is like this is what gets to play out in your lifetime. Now, all those signs, all those planets, they have high expressions, low expressions. And so it depends on how you express your life, you'll experience a spectrum of your chart. Human design is more about quantum energy. So really the way I tend to explain it, and people have different ways of explaining it, but the way I explain it is, how is your energy interacting in the quantum field? Now, if you're not familiar with the quantum field, it is quantum physics. It's the idea that this microphone that I have, the laptop, you and I, inanimate objects, we're all just a composite of atoms. But we're all connected in the quantum field. And it's saying, okay, Jackie, you have a specific way that your energy works. Ilona has a different energy field. And when you understand how your energy works and my energy works, then we can also understand how to work together and how to maximize the way our energies work. And it also can help understand why we don't get along with people, like, or why some people may be automatically repelling, some people might be automatically easy for us to get along with, because our energies in the field are either melding nicely or like not kind of like interacting as easily. And that helps us kind of also have more compassion. For me, all of this is compassion. Walter believed it was love. I think this is compassion.
Ooh, yes. Oh my God. Are you the next Walter Mercado?
Oh, I accept the invitation.
I love it. Mucho, mucho, mucho amor. And compassion, compassion, compassion.
Compasión.
Compasión. Wow. Okay. So I know that you just recently did a reading for me, and we did both. We did the astrology chart and then the human design chart.
Yeah.
So in your process, this is the thing, like this, your company does this, like you do the whole, both things. Like
Yeah,
one
some
is not
people
separate
prefer
from you.
one over the other, so if, like,
Uh-huh.
they really wanna focus on one, we can, but here's the thing, y'all. Human design, the way you get your design is by your birth chart. So human design is a mix of astrology, the Chinese I Ching, which is a Chinese divination system, the Jewish Kabbalah, and the Hindu chakra system. And the way it happens is that you'll see it looks like a body. So when you look at a human design chart, you'll see almost like this like human body and these little shapes in the middle. Some of them are colored, some of them are not. And the way the colors come in are based on your birth chart. Some of the lines will be defined. Now, another thing about human design that's really interesting is they believe that your soul came into your body 3 months before you were born, regardless if you were premature or late. And so the way the actual chart comes together is when basically the birth chart of your soul and your birth chart of when you came in out of your mom's body mix together, then anything that connects is lit up in this little system. And those connections, the combination of connections tells us which is your design. And there are about 4 or 5 designs depending on, who you listen to, but there are not a lot of designs. There are different combinations of how those designs express, but there are specific 5 energy types that interact with people in a certain way. And all of it is based on how these birth charts, astrology, connect to the little lines, which are the I Ching gates, and how they line up to the chakras that are lit up by when all these connect.
Oh my God, I love this stuff. Okay, amiga. So you're saying there's 4 to 5 designs. What do you find in your line of work? What are the most common designs?
Well, there are actually statistics. So 70% of the human population are made up in human design by either generators or manifesting generators. And they put them all together in one category because if amigas, if you're listening to this and you're familiar with the chakra system, then anyone who has the sacral chakra defined are generators, and that's 70% of the population. And I had to tell you something really funny. I feel like I'm on a mission to debunk, because a lot of people hear 70%. I don't feel special. I don't want to be a generator. I don't want to be a manifesting generator. That's so many of us. And I'm like, y'all, you don't understand. It's not, I joke, I joke. It's like, we need to stop having aura envy or energy envy, right? It's,
Chakra envy or
yeah.
envy.
Yeah, design envy. It's like, stop being envious of not having the design you wanted,
Yeah.
because you were given a design, and it's about understanding how that design works. Because for me, when you understand how your aura, or because like it's kind of like, for lack of a better phrase, your quantum field is like your aura, right? When you understand how your energy works, then you live out the best storyline of your birth chart. So your birth chart is your story. The human design tells you how to best like use your energy in this lifetime. And when you combine those two, you can literally really align your energy to express that chart in the best way. So all these people are denying their sacral chakra. I'm like, y'all are so lucky, because what that means is that you have a aura or an energy field that's open. It's enveloping. Things come to you. And so you have a whole bunch of generators. 70% of the population is out there trying to hustle, 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 when you're supposed to be in the moment and see what comes to you, and trust your body to guide you to the yes or no response that gets you to the most aligned experiences in your life.
Ooh, I love that. And amigas, like when she said, like, the manifesting generator and the generator, I'm a generator, and exactly how, how she was saying that, we're like, oh no, that's not cool. Part of the 70%, you want to be unique, but actually, it's a good thing. It's a great thing.
It is awesome. So I have a manifestor aura. We're only 9% of the human population. And I have some friends that are like, of course you have a manifestor aura. I'm like, listen, it's not about the envy, because the manifestor aura is, while the generators are open and enveloping, things come to them. A manifestor is the only one that's really just supposed to go and do it. Their aura is supposed to initiate.
Yeah.
And so what's funny, we usually don't do what our aura is supposed to do. Generators aren't, and manifesting generators, you're not supposed to necessarily be going, initiating, starting all this stuff up. It doesn't mean that you can't start companies. It doesn't mean that you can't do things, but like, you don't have to do, you have to be. It's about doing, not being, as a generator or a manifesting generator.
Yes.
But manifestors, we actually got to do shit. Pardon my language. I don't know if we're allowed to curse. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you can
Okay.
say all kinds of stuff.
So manifestors, we're the ones who are supposed to go and do the shit, but we don't want to, because most of the world is already doing it when they're not supposed to be doing it. So I always joke, I am relaxing when I'm supposed to be doing, because all of the generators who are supposed to be just being or doing things, and I'm like, there's like, I can't, we're all out of alignment.
I know, we're all out of whack.
Yeah.
God, yeah, because I mean, like, for instance, like me, I want to create, I want to do this, and you're like, hold up, it should come to you. It's like, I'm like,
Well,
what?
Well,
Oh,
and the
yeah,
right things will come to you, right? Because
yeah.
sometimes I think there's like, the human brain goes, you should do this.
Mm-hmm,
There's a
mm-hmm.
difference between doing something than having this message from the quantum field saying, get in contact with people, start connecting. Like, you can respond to the urge to connect,
Yeah,
but you don't have to like knock down every door and start every company and be the top, right? Like, it's more about, what does your body say you really want to do? When you're in touch with your body as a generator or manifesting generator, it's like you are being led to the right experiences, the right actions, the right connections, the right whatever.
And how do we learn how to hear our bodies?
My favorite thing. I'm so glad that I learned, like, I hate to be like, I have a master's in health and wellness, but I'm so glad that I got that, because literally, for mindfulness, it is about learning to be in the moment. My biggest tip for the 70 percenters of human design,
That's me.
yeah, is really learn to be in the moment, right? Because in order, the strategy for manifesting generators and generators is to respond. That's what they say. So what does that mean? That means, as things are coming into your quantum field, when you're tapped into the moment, you can hear when your body says, yes, I want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. Maybe we should pause right now, right?
Yeah.
But what happens? Most of us are either living 5 minutes, 5 years in the future, or in the past. And when you're not in the moment, you cannot hear your body helping you get aligned to what's a
Yeah.
yes or what's a no.
Yes. Ah, I love that. I got an email by one of my beautiful friends, and I went to SC. So of course, SC I mean, when you hear that there might be an opportunity with this institution that I love, and then I read it and I was like, my brain was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I remember what you said to me. Be in the moment, ask your body if this is right for you. And I did. And I was like, I didn't feel it. I was like, okay, I got to pass on this.
And how does it feel?
And I feel like, okay, because it's going to be there next year too. So I feel like, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't, as much as I would want to on my brain, I feel like my bandwidth is just, there's so much going on and I'm supposed to be in the moment. And in the moment, I've decided I'm going to put a pause on that.
Awesome.
So it's beautiful. So amigas, you really need to schedule a session with Ilona. So Ilona, tell us about your programs that you offer.
Sure. Is it okay if I just talk about the 3 other designs so people don't
Sure.
feel left out?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
just real
yeah.
quick,
No,
super
yeah.
quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So
Go for it.
so 20% of the population are projectors, which means while the generators are open and enveloping, projectors are literally like that. They are penetrating while they're going right into everyone's energy field and being like, oh, look at this. Oh, I can see why this isn't working. Woo, woo. So they're like guides, they're teachers, and they're able to go in, but their strategy is to wait for an invitation, which they don't like so much. So so this is why we talk about strategies, because the projector gets to wait until they're either energetically invited or literally invited. And I always use Cinderella as the example. Cinderella went to the ball in a ball gown. She was doing her best. She was being her best self. She said nothing to Prince Charming. He was like, I like her energy. I'm going to go ask her and dance. And she, she trusted her authority and she met Prince Charming. She didn't have to do anything. Projectors, you're able to see exactly what needs to be done, but you don't have to push your vision, your knowledge. When people acknowledge you, go there. You don't have to push your vision there. Manifestors are the 9%. We got to initiate. So we got to be the starters. We got to do our things. We got to not people please, because then if we don't protect our aura, then the thing that we came here to do doesn't get done. And 1% of the population are reflectors. Nothing is defined in their chart, which means they're basically like mirrors. They tend to kind of almost mirror the people that they're in or the environments that they're in. And so they're very rare, but their energy is very special.
Ooh, wow. That's
So
interesting. I'd be careful.
well, it'd be great reflections. Like they are a
Yeah.
great temperature gauge, right?
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow, there's all kinds.
There's so
Amigas,
much energy.
so have a chat with Ilona to determine what kind of human design you are.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So where can we find you?
So Instagram is like my favorite space, although I am playing with TikTok. My website is being developed, and on my Instagram, there's a link where you can see all the readings. I have oracle card readings, I have pure birth chart readings, and then I did the hybrid reading that I did with Jackie, where we did both the human design and the astrology, so that you can get really the whole assessment on how is your energy, what are you here to do, so that you can move forward powerfully and with confidence. I really think these are validation experiences.
Oh, totally. Complete validation. And I did the hybrid because I always want to get like the VIP. So, amigas, I'm going to put all that information on the show notes. But before I let you go, Ilona, I always ask my guests my 1 or 2 tips that they have on how an amiga can handle her shit.
Yes. So my first thing when you ask me this question, I'm like, okay, the first thing is you get to own your shit.
Ooh, yes.
Because if you're handling your shit, which means something's out of maybe in breakdown or not in your control, we always have control. Whether, because I think even when we use astrology or oracle cards or these magical things, we act as if the power is outside of ourselves. But those are just awareness tools. So you need to own your shit. You need to own your reality. If your life is a mess, you get to be like, my life is a mess. And be where you are. You get to accept it. You cannot bypass the shit, because when it's like putting a dead body like in your closet and hoping no one knows there's a dead body, it's gonna start stinking.
Yeah, totally.
You need
Totally.
to take care and own the fact that there's a mess in the room and you get to clean it up. Even when things are difficult, even when things are not your fault, you get to own your side of the shit.
Yeah.
And when you own your side of the shit, you are taking power back in the
Mm,
experiences. Even if you are not the root cause of it, you get to reclaim it by owning your shit.
yeah. Yes. You heard it, amigas.
And the second part, so before I was a astrology informed life coach, I really started off with compassion from all the Buddhism and meditation I learned. And one of the big things that I think amigas get to learn to own their shit is you also get to be kind to yourself while
Mm,
you're owning your shit. Because what do? We beat ourselves up more than anyone else, and we put ourselves into states that are unnecessary. We make ourselves work harder. It's almost like we self-flagellate
mhm,
and punish ourselves just because things aren't good, instead of saying, you know what, I'm a good person. I did the best that I could with what I had. I am in not a great state, but you know what? I'm going to own my part. I'm going to be nice to myself so I can rise above it.
yes.
Because know what? You can't depend on someone else to be nice on you. But if you can be nice to yourself, even in a breakdown, then you will get through it with self love.
Mm. So true. So true. And I think oftentimes we want to bypass that and because it's easier.
Oh, so it's so much easier. It's
So
so much
much
easier
easier.
to let everyone else take the blame, take the fall.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
God, universe, your ex-boyfriend, your
yeah.
parents because of what they thought, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, forget them and whatever it is. But we all have a place card, a place, in whatever happened,
Mhm.
however small. So if we have this tremendous opportunity to really go on an exploration hunt when those things happen,
Yeah.
rather than just like avoiding it. Because I
Yeah.
think, especially now, I mean, it's like so crazy the energy. What do you think the energy? I mean, it's like next level insane.
Well, it's interesting from an astrological perspective, we have had Chiron, which is a placement of the wounded healer in the collective in Aries, which is the individual self, since 2018. And so I've noticed that a lot of people have felt this since 2017.
Yeah.
But we have all been on a journey of healing parts of ourselves for the past few years. This ends in 2017, 2027. So we're going almost like a decade run of, hey, I get to heal parts of me that up until now society has not allowed individuals to heal. So it's easy to be like, oh, because of the wars or because of the economy or because of, the pandemic, yes, I'm not going to say that those weren't influences. And yet at the same time, there's always an opportunity to say, what am I learning about myself in this experience? Because like I said, when you own your shit, what you actually allow yourself to do is find solutions. When you're not owning your shit, you're bypassing, which is avoiding wrapping up a problem and cleaning up the space.
Yeah.
Not cleaning up a space is avoiding the solution.
Yeah.
We all have an opportunity to find solutions in every way, but a lot of us aren't owning our shit.
You heard it here, amigas. We get to own our shit, and this is the podcast.
And we could be nice with ourselves while we're doing it.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I love this conversation. Thank you so much, Ilona. I
Oh,
mean, this is so beautiful, and amigas out there get to learn a little bit more about not only astrology but about human design and the psychology behind that. And you know, we shouldn't be scared about these things. It's so I feel like it should be a thing that you get to do at one point in your life.
yeah, for
Find
me,
out your birth chart.
this is like taking the Myers-Briggs or the Strengths Finders. This is just an awareness tool. A lot of
Mm.
people make it like it's something that I'm going to change your life, but it's like, no, I'm not
Yeah.
changing your life.
It's
I'm
like,
just
"Ay,
giving
es
you,
brujería, eso es
yeah,
brujería." And then it's like,
no,
well, that's okay if it is, but like, it's a good brujería.
yeah,
You
it's
know?
just awareness. It's just
Awareness.
awareness.
Yes, and awareness. Well, thank you, my love. I'm fully aware of your powers, and I love this. And I get to do this exploration, and I'm so grateful to have met you and for
Oh,
you to be here on Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast.
thank you so much.